Good morning. Welcome to Viewpoint, your program with personalities, politicians, and perspectives. And we're going to have a pair of those on just very, very shortly. First, with By Your Leave, Cynthia Lynn. Judy Busby has been replaced by her daughter. Well, nobody's going to replace Judy, but Cynthia Lynn is sitting in for her today. And with your permission, Cynthia, I would like to, big election coming up. That's what our program is about this morning. But on November 17th, the voters have an opportunity to act smart or act really stupid. And if they do not vote for the referendum to save this, and I mean this literally, to save the courthouse, 5 cents on a dollar, folks, will be the only tax you have. No. Say that again, Mary. Say that right again.
Oh, it's 5 cents on $100.
On $100, yes. Yes, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, 50.
Yeah.
Good morning, I'm Mary Kelley. It's 50 cents
Testing 1, 2.
It's 50 cents on 100.
Yes, that's right. Yes, absolutely. I thought I was right there. Now, whoa, what's this about? Well, in any event, it's a minuscule amount of money to save a magnificent old building. And beyond that, beyond the aesthetics of this thing, is think for a minute if you had to move the county treasurer's office out while they were replacing that building. Think for a minute how acting as a clerk, trying to cover your bases, working out of a rented space, or the county clerk, or the circuit clerk, or the sheriff's office, any of those very, very important jobs, moving them out temporarily, so to speak, if you had to, would be a disaster. I just don't see how anybody can fail to vote yes on this referendum. It is so I just can't come up with the right adjective, and that's pretty bad for an old man who was pretty good in English. So you must consider this in a positive way, folks.
The other thing I think they need to think about is not only is it only a nickel on a dollar, it's also like the lockbox amendment, that nickel is going to the courthouse. It is not going into a general fund to be used as needed. It is strictly for the courthouse.
Very important.
And
very important.
It will expire. I believe it only lasts for 20 years. And that will not only do the repairs now, you'll have money in a fund to continue. We've talked about this. Anytime you have an older structure, whether it's your home or your business, or in our case, a courthouse, it needs constant upkeep. Daily,
really. So, you have a chance to step up, pick up a Hillary and, what's the name of that bat? Hillary and baseball bat. Anyway, doesn't make it, it's not important. But anyway, you have a chance to swing and make a home run. Vote yes for the referendum. It's not going to cost you any money, folks. Oh, and by the way, the tax does not apply to food or drugs. Oh, speaking of drugs, I talked to my son who's working with marijuana distribution in Fulton County. Since they have legalized street drugs, so to speak, as opposed to medicinal marijuana, the sales have shot through the roof. That's just amazing. Let's get serious here. I was very serious, and so was Cynthia, about this courthouse vote. Vote yes, please. Introduce our guest, Cynthia Lynn.
We have the Kelleys with us.
Yeah,
from the circuit clerk's office. We have Mary Kelley, who will be retiring later this year, who is right now the circuit clerk, and we have Kelley Elias, who is running for her position. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you for having us.
Good morning.
It's actually kind of fun because I work with both girls a lot through my employment and have enjoyed Mary for many, 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 many years and have gotten to know Kelley over the years, and they're both amazing people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Mrs. Kelley, what will you do in your retirement? You don't have to tell us any secrets now.
Well, what's funny there, people say, what are you going to do when you retire? And my answer is whatever I want to do.
That's a fair
But very fortunately, my husband's going to retire at the same time, so hopefully we will.
Well, we're here to talk about your possible successor. And that's the last. We're happy to have you aboard with us this morning. What would be your first goal if you were to step into the clerk's office?
Well, the first goal for me would be to continue with the excellent work that we're currently doing. You know, it'll be a smooth transition. There will be no training involved, trying to learn the job. I already know the job. So that's going to be very helpful for everybody, including the public. You know, we'll be able to answer those questions that they come in with right away instead of having to wait to look those up or anything like that. So
you're offering the public a leg up on the job.
That
really
is correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Let's try to inform our both of our listeners.
Both of our listeners.
Both of them. What exactly does your office do?
Well, I like to say, what don't we do?
I've been there, I know.
Right. Well, we are the administrative arm to the court. We're the right hand to them. And so we are in charge of all the records, all the record keeping, all the exhibits, all the, you know, a lot of times we'll have people come in that want to file an appeal. Maybe they don't like the way their case was ruled on. So we're in charge of getting all those records to get there and getting those to the appellate court. There's just so many things. Yeah. We handle adoption records, traffic records, divorce, small claims, family, misdemeanors, DUIs, and felony cases. And all of those cases are very important to everybody involved. You know, sometimes people think, oh, it's a felony case, you have to pay more attention to that, but in our office, no, it's the same as a small claims case. Every case is important, and those records are important, and we have to safeguard those records.
And we also
Now,
take care of elections.
Let me ask a question about saving evidence. Let's say you have a burglary trial for once of something, and you have a piece of physical evidence, and you have to. It's up to your office to save that and make sure it's in safekeeping. So if it ever has to come back again.
Right, we have to secure that item. And so we have involved that those items are kept in under lock and key. And, we have to preserve those. That's our job. That's the duty of the clerk.
Mary Kelley, you came here to not just to be the chauffeur du jour this morning, but you would put in a word for Mrs. Elias, and I know that's why you came, and I invited you to come and sit down rather than stand around outside in the green room, as they say, in whatever broadcasting that means. Go right ahead, Mary.
Well, and I appreciate that. Before I became circuit clerk, I worked in the civil division, which was civil is more like divorce, family cases, small claims. And Kelley worked for one of our local attorneys, John Gilbaugh's office, and she came over daily, because back then things weren't electronically filed, so we had a lot more interaction with our attorneys and their administrator or assistants. And so anyway, Kelley would come over, and whatever the procedure was, she didn't just want to say, here, I need this filed. She wanted to understand how it was filed, the whole procedure as far as beginning to end, filing the paperwork, how it went to court. So over those years, as I worked with Kelley, I was really very impressed with her. She, again, wanted to know the whole picture, and I was always that kind of person. The more I knew, the more important I was to that office, and that meant a lot to me. I wanted to offer and learn so I could give back through that as well, and Kelley definitely fills those shoes. When I was fortunate enough to be elected circuit clerk in 2010, I then asked Kelley if she'd like to come to work for me, and very luckily she said absolutely.
That marriage has worked out well then.
It really, really has, yes.
Well, and for people who haven't been up there, that office actually runs pretty smoothly.
Thank you.
In spite of all the chaos, because you're dealing with, although we're a small county, we have more than one judge, so we're holding more than one hearing. It's a busy place.
Yes, it is. And there's a lot of times both judges that are sitting in Logan County right now are having hearings, and then we have another judge coming from out of county in for a special hearing. So then we have 3 courtrooms that we're working with, just not the 2 on a regular basis. So we have
Now,
those challenges
unfortunately, we're
as well.
not able to use the best courtroom, the third floor room.
Yes, unfortunately.
We can't use that because of the condition of the courthouse. Voters need to remember that too.
Yes, they do.
I don't know how it must be very difficult to function. Number one, aesthetically, that old courtroom just rings of an ancient courtroom, which of course it is, but it's got a lot of charm to it. I don't know whether you can put charm in a courtroom or not, but it is. But working without the use of that room has to be a difficult thing for those folks who are in that business. For instance, currently, where are we having court now in lieu of that room?
Well, currently we are using the 2nd floor courtroom and the 1st floor courtroom. Those are the only 2 available to us at this time. So when I was speaking earlier about how a visiting judge may come in, if both courtrooms are occupied in hearings, then we have to go across the street to...
What a mess that is.
It is. It's difficult, but we manage. That's what we do. We make sure that the courts run smoothly. That's our job, and we take that very seriously. So we do the best that we can do with what we have.
Well, and every time there's a hearing, one of you from your office sits in the courtroom.
Correct.
I don't know if that's we draw straws, the short one loses, or how that's worked out, but you are such an integral part of that hearing, not only looking at we need to, we're going to continue this hearing, finding a new date, copying court orders to give to the participants of the hearing.
We have a caller, do we, Jim? All right, here's your headphone, my dear. All right,
I've never done this before.
And you're right ahead, caller.
Bill, Doug Muck calling.
Morning, Doug.
Yes, good morning, sir.
Hello, is this Judy?
No, Cince.
Cince, how are you?
I'm good. How are
You
you?
didn't pay attention when I introduced you.
Pretty good. Hey, I was just calling to say hi to Kelley and Kelley. They are 2 of my favorite people.
Hi, Doug.
We just wanted to say we've been working in this court system for probably as long as any other attorney in the area, and I have always been well impressed both with Mary Kelley. Mary started right at the same time I did practically in Logan County, and I am absolutely certain that Kelley Elias is going to do a great job filling that position. So just wanted to talk about that a minute and say hi to everybody, and I got to get packed because I'm leaving for Indianapolis in a little while.
Thank you. Be sure to hit him straight down the middle when you get on the golf course. Thank you very much, Doug.
All right, thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you, Doug.
These headphones kind of pinch my little ears. The election, of course, comes up very soon, just around the corner. That's one thing we have in Logan County. We're lucky to have the candidates who offer themselves for their respective offices. And we have good candidates out there, folks. And so they work hard to earn your vote. And I urge you, for goodness sakes, vote. And while you're at it, put a yes in for that courthouse referendum. Now, that's all I'm going to talk about that today. Now, you don't have any big goals, Mrs. Elias, because things are running pretty doggone smoothly in there. Your job, as I understand what you're saying, is to make sure that we just keep it that way.
That is correct. And I guess the goal is to continue with the excellent service that we provide to the community and to our local attorneys and the judges. I think everybody in our office is very proud of that, the way Mary has helped us. And 43 years of experience is quite remarkable, and we are the lucky ones to have learned from that. No schooling will ever take place of experience, and so I'm very happy that I've had the opportunity to do that. Learned from the best.
Let's talk about this new thing. E-filing.
Yes.
For years through my employment, we have brought up copies of court reports. You judiciously stamp them in. We put the copies for the attorneys in a lovely milk crate and leave. For those who are not computer savvy, and there's a lot of people out there, can you still file paper as opposed to e-filing whatever I'm filing, whether it be for a traffic or for a divorce, for a family case, whatever it be? Can you still paper file old school? Or the reason I ask this, there are many counties that if you can't e-file, I'm really sorry, too bad.
Well, it is a mandate for the civil division. However, there are exemptions. There's maybe somebody with an order of protection that needs some help, so they could possibly be exempt. Third parties like DCFS could be exempt. However, we encourage DCFS to e-file, and we're there to help you. It's much easier than it sounds. It's going to save you a bunch of time and money because, like you said, you print out loads of copies and your reports could be 100 pages long. That's a lot of copying of reports that then you have to deliver. You can do that right from your office. You can upload those, file them in, and then the system will send them to exactly where they need to go for the attorneys and or the parties of the case.
So it saves time
It
regardless
saves time and money.
what type of
And
case.
lots of space. Lots of space.
Yes.
Can I throw one little plug in?
Right
We've
ahead,
been
young
very
lady. You're
fortunate.
an equal guest, so go right ahead,
Well,
Mary.
thank you. I really just want to send kudos out to our public library. At the very
Absolutely.
beginning, and the way our system is set up for security reasons, if somebody comes in to electronically file, they have to have their own email address. They have to set up their account through Odyssey, which is our e-filing manager, and then we can help them proceed from there on with the paperwork, getting it uploaded and filed in. Well, our system's locked down to where if somebody comes in and says, I don't have an email address, Richard Summerall, who is, I believe he retires today,
Yes.
actually.
Yes.
Yes.
He was gracious enough back when we first started this to offer his services. Caroline, who works at the library also, we can send the parties over there. They will help them set up their email addresses, get them set up with their account through Odyssey, and they'll even direct them, help them navigate the legal aid website for the different forms if they're available. And then they're able to come back over to our office and we can help them finish up. So that I do want to give a great thank you to the library.
That's
Another
wonderful.
service,
Yes.
Another service that our library offers.
Yes.
You know, because I look at someone like my mother, she doesn't know how to turn it on. My husband doesn't know how to turn it on. So filing anything is an impossibility. So,
And a lot of people are real frustrated when they walk in, but boy, we do our darndest that they leave going,
Right.
okay, we understand it or we get it. And again, it's not the smoothest process right up front, but boy, it makes a huge difference. Once they are set up, they do leave pretty satisfied.
The availability of the service of the library has to be a tremendous asset to people who
Oh, absolutely.
have that need. And that precludes them coming up to the courthouse. They can go to the library, and they'll help them get their filing done right there.
Yes, and those who don't maybe have a computer at home,
Oh yeah, there are many of them.
or once they have that account set up, we have a public portal, so they'll come in and they can file right in our office through that. So they wouldn't, once they have their account set up, they don't necessarily always have to go back to the library. They are able to come in and do that, electronically file in our office. And we're there to help them with that as well.
We have an electronic filing, and it is called commercials for those who sponsor our program. And so we're going to take a few minutes now and recognize our sponsors. Go right ahead, Mr. Ash. Flip your dials. Trouble moving the cat to get to his dials. But we're back live on the air here. Our second caller is called in this morning. That's one of our 2 listeners. Go right ahead, caller. Thank you for your patience while we're going through our commercials. Go right ahead, please.
Okay, this is a comment and a question. I've watched some of the interviews or presentations that some of the candidates have put on, and I was a little disturbed by one political figure's refusal to support redoing the courthouse, primarily because the position of that political figure. That entails that he's willing to severely increase the taxes for the people in this county for something that's going to still be a 2-year process for a new courthouse versus redoing the old one at a lower cost. And that's the comment. The question I've got is that there was also comments made and a couple elected figures in the county who seem to support nepotism. And that's not a very conducive thing to support given the number of people that are qualified for positions. And I understand that her position won't have anything to do with it or changing the laws, but I'd like to know what her position on nepotism is.
So you want to hire your mother, your sister?
Well, absolutely.
Thank you. I don't want to be dismissive of that comment or your call, sir. We appreciate your call. We appreciate your interest in taking your time to make that call. So, this is Elias. The gentleman wants to know how do you feel about hiring a relative?
Well, my relatives all work, so I won't be doing that. And I mean, I understand the problems that it could cause, and I feel like he had mentioned there are other people available, and that's what I'd be looking at.
So that would be your first course of duty, would be to be dismissive of your own family if you could find anybody else. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I hope that answers your question, young man.
It does. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your call. All right.
Well, and on one hand, I kind of understand that question because Illinois has had a history of people in high places hiring the neighbor kids, my relatives. I know that's where, with my employment, we came up with Rutan hiring, that it is a vetting process, and it's scored. And it doesn't matter if you're my best friend. If you don't score well, you're not there. It's that simple. But moving on, and thank you very much for calling in. When you get a traffic ticket or other egregious acts, sometimes there's fines involved with those. I'm assuming your office collects fines too, and how does that work?
Right, so the judge will impose fines and assessments. We don't call them costs anymore because of the new Traffic Assessment Act. So once those are done, there's a time frame. They have so long to get that completed. If they fail to do that, then the judge orders those fines to collections. And we have partnered with a company, CCP, and they collect on our behalf. We send them the files, and then they start the collection process. After a period of time, if they're not able to collect anything, they come back to us, and then we send them to the comptroller's office. That's another program that we have started. And what that does is the comptroller's office, if they're a state employee and get a payroll check, they'll withhold a certain amount of money out of their payroll check to offset that, and or their Illinois tax refund. And so we're able to collect the monies that way.
Interesting. So you're going to get me anyway.
We're going
one way or the other.
Well, they didn't assess those fines just to make a little bit of something to do. They assessed them for a reason.
They're assessed through statute, yes.
In some cases, they may be punitive, and maybe they're not, but they still have to be met.
That is correct.
Yes.
Another question, we've talked about all the court files and the different court cases and all the paperwork and evidence. You also are the keeper of Birth certificates, nope.
No, that's
that'll
county.
be
But
the
you
county
have
clerk and recorder.
genealogy.
Yes.
Okay. How does genealogy work
Well,
in the clerk's office?
Very slowly
who would have
sometimes.
thought, right?
Yeah, of all the things, yeah.
A lot of times, they could be looking through divorce records. You know, maybe there was a great-great-grandmother that whose name changed throughout. They found out through their genealogy research, and so they'll look at those kind of records and research that way. Some adoption records, but those are closed, so they will have to get permission through the court, and that's up to the court whether those records can be opened or not.
Sometimes, too, just to throw in the, not funny, but, somebody as they're doing research of their family, they might find out that their great-great-great-great-great-grandpa stole somebody's mule. So they'll come in kind of looking backwards to some of those type of records, too, which are records, if I'm correct on the year, the courthouse burned in 1856 or 57. So anything before that is gone. But, we have interesting ones come in, and they'll come back 3 or 4 times. And also title companies come in to research property. When people buy real estate, they have to go backwards and make sure there's no liens and stuff.
Correct, because that could have been from a land, a life estate.
Sure.
And now it's dissolved, so they have to get a clear title and have to make sure there's no other owners that are out there.
I think it would be fascinating to look through some of the old court records, from the late 1800s, because they didn't have anything that we have going now.
No.
No, they
2 tin cans and
crackle
a string.
Right.
And we actually have a gal, and she's been there probably since 1980. She's been there shortly after I got there, and that is her thing. She volunteers at our genealogy society, so we're really lucky to have her there to help with people finding their older records, because something that's called a criminal felony today was not called a criminal felony 80 years ago.
Do you remember what it was called, just out of curiosity?
Well, and all I know is the lettering is a CR, so I'm not really sure what the criminal record or something of that nature maybe. But
It's
These are
of a
just things
side
you
issue.
learn.
It's just interesting to read the prose, the language of the day when you read records like that.
Yes.
The way they form sentences and paragraphs and so forth. Very, very interesting.
And you have to be so very careful, because a lot of those records, and they are up in, we have to climb like a really old ladder up and pull these old metal boxes out, but the papers are so brittle.
Yes.
And so you have to be very, very careful.
Well, and it's changed. I mean, I can remember when I started at my job 30 years ago, we had a gal that did shorthand. And that's how she took court records. Now everybody's got the little typing machine that doesn't really type words, and I don't understand all of it or how it makes sense, but that has changed.
I think our last stenographer would have been Linda Peasley.
Yes,
And
yes, it was.
She's been gone for a few years, but that was amazing, because now sometimes they want some of her records for different court cases, and people can't transcribe her records, obviously, because it was...
Yeah, who does
it was her
stenography?
own.
Mrs. Elias, if you're elected, what would be the first thing you will want to do besides thank God? No, seriously, I don't want to be facetious about this.
No,
you're going into a position which has significant responsibilities, and you have you kind of mapped out in your mind what, other than embrace all of your fellow employees, what would be the first thing you would do?
Well, like you'd mentioned, that is the first thing I would do. I would thank him for giving me the opportunities he's given me in life. And I would also, of course, my family and everybody that's helped, but a big thank you goes to Mary for believing in me from the very beginning and giving me the opportunity for me to show her what I'm made of, and that I'm not afraid of challenges, and I welcome them. I welcome them, and we've had a good run. I've learned an awful lot from her. I've met some wonderful people, and that's where my thanks goes to, for me personally, is to her for giving me that opportunity. And like I said, we'll sit down with staff and because my position, so to speak, would be open, because I currently sit with the judges now. I'm a courtroom clerk, so I'm in court a lot, and so somebody would have to fill that position for me, because I wouldn't be able to be in the courtroom and efficiently run the office on a full-time basis like that. So,
would you hire somebody out of your office to do that, or would you feel a need to perhaps bring in somebody else because you might be short-staffed?
we would look at probably bringing in new staff, but they would not step into that role. Somebody that's already been in the office would be able to step into the role of the court clerk, and we'll just go from there.
I know you've served under the master or the mistress, so to speak.
Yes.
Would you change anything?
No. The only thing that would be changed is what the law changes.
Well, yes, that's a different matter.
We have a great system, and things will change throughout the years. Like, even when I came, we weren't e-filing when I came. I'm very proud of the fact that we were the first county to go live with e-filing. Out of all the counties in the state of Illinois, Logan County
counties, that's very good.
Was the first to go live, and we're really proud of that. It was a lot of hard work.
That's amazing.
That's because of the leadership you've had.
That's right.
Yeah, because you've been there 9 years, and
Correct.
if you think back to when you started and where you are now and all of the changes, just the e-filing, record storage, all of that.
Yes.
There's been a lot of change. And like you say, changes in the laws.
Changes in the laws all the time.
I'm going to just jump in. Kelley's given me a lot of credit, but I have to give the credit to all the girls in the office, because I haven't had one of them going, no, I don't want to try to do that.
Right.
Every one of them has been head on. Everybody has their own, I'm going to call it specialty, so we've got a couple that have the direct contacts if there's questions, and I have to give kudos to the girls in the office, because it has been a big change for us, and they've all jumped in, ready to go.
You see, that speaks to the very thing I've talked about rather often on this station, perhaps ad nausea, but I've said often. I said that twice, didn't I? We have an excellent group of employees in that courthouse. I think we have the best county employees in 102 counties, and I mean in all of the offices.
Absolutely.
In every office that's up there, and you serve such a need to and for our county. So it's kind of a joy to hear this reinforced here.
Right, and your office is only as good as your leader. And so I hope to carry that on. I know who we have working in that office, and we're lucky. We all love our job, and we love our job is because how we're led. And so I can hope that I'll be able to continue that on.
Is it time to reassess for salaries?
We don't talk about that on the air. No, I'm teasing.
No, I've said this often, and I don't mind repeating it too. We have a great group of people in our courthouse. They're there to serve, and that they do. And I think that's the best way I can put it. They serve us well.
We appreciate that.
We do, and
right
just
ahead,
No, they do. I echo that and work with, many of the offices there, many of the attorneys, the judges,
Right.
on a regular basis. And there's a lot of times we can agree to disagree,
yes.
Yes.
but it doesn't become the Hatfields and the McCoys.
No.
We have a different perspective, and for our own reasons.
Correct.
I will say this, Kelley and I have had many discussions, because she does have a lot of forward-thinking things that, sometimes once you've been somewhere, this works. Well, it's like, okay. But again, we have a lot of good discussions, because we don't always agree on things, but in the end, we have it hashed out the way it needs to be.
But I think that's why that office works well, because it is the open communication.
It is.
That I can say, really, we're going to do that, and talk about why don't we do it this way, and really kind of, because a lot of times change is a mandate. It's forced upon us.
Right. Yeah, and it's
You've
hard.
got to do this differently. And instead of saying, no, Mary, I don't really want to do that, Kelley, no, we're not doing it that way.
Yes.
Talking amongst yourselves, coming from different ways, a way that this is going to work, because we don't have a choice. This is what we're going to do.
Right, and we're always there to listen to your ideas, because you might have something that we haven't thought of on your end, because we're only seeing it from one. So we're always open to that, and we will do whatever it takes for things to run smoothly for everyone involved.
Now, if you're successful in replacing Mrs. Kelley, will we have to find somebody else to bring in for take your place on the staff?
Yes.
We will.
Yes.
Are you happy there with Children and Family Services?
I don't want the job. I already got one. Keeps me busy.
The campaign, has it been rewarding to you so far?
It has. It's been something.
You're working hard, aren't you?
Yes, but I'm proud of that. And so no matter how it ends up on the 17th, I always said that I wanted to be proud of what I put out there. I've worked hard for this, and I've worked hard in the office, and as long as I'm proud of what I put out there, whatever happens, I'm happy with.
That's a good, responsible answer. And that's the other thing we have up there in that courthouse. We have responsibility. We have people, when they step to the counter to help you, by golly, that's what they're going to do. And if they don't know the answer, they'll find out.
Absolutely. You know, there's times that there's situations that come up that maybe we don't know the answer. We'll have to go get Mary. And she's able to answer that question right now. And that is, again, it goes back to the smooth transition. If I'm lucky enough to be elected, that will continue. The staff will be able to come to me, and I'll be able to answer the question right away. So
648-5510 in the closing minutes here. Somebody might have a question and or an endorsement. We won't accept negative comments. 648-5510. We have with us Kelley Elias, a candidate for circuit clerk in the county of Logan, and her sidekick and immediate superior, Mary Kelley, who's done a great job for us in this office.
Thank you.
And she's going to ride off into the sunset soon. When will if you're successful, when will you take office then?
December 1st.
December 1.
Well, and I encourage everybody, please get out and vote.
Yes.
You know, it is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. I get so tired of people complaining about elected officials, and then you say, well, did you vote? No. And I have choice words for them. If you don't step
Not
up
on
to
the
the
air.
plate, yeah, the FCC and all that stuff. But if you can't step up to the plate to vote and make your decision that counts, then you have nothing to complain about.
I agree with that.
Well, and here's another thing. All of these candidates, we put ourselves out there. I mean, you are, I'm going to use the word on the clock, 24/7 wherever you go. I mean, you're attending all kinds of activities. You're speaking in front of people, and that isn't always the easiest thing to do. But you put your whole life out on the line to people for criticisms, for applause. I mean, for positives and negatives. Your family, they work right alongside of you just as hard. So I give kudos to everybody. I had no idea years ago what it was going to come down to. My husband was my cheerleader. He'd get in and drive the truck,
think he
and
still
I
is,
hopped
by the
in.
way.
I think he might be. So, I mean, I do. I always say that. All of the candidates, it's a lot of work. It's something you want to do, and you put your whole heart and soul into it. So voting is something that is greatly appreciated by every candidate.
And it is difficult. Dad was on the city
Yes.
council for many years. And
And a
let me
good
tell
one.
you, I knocked a lot of doors and hung a lot of
Yes,
things on doorknobs.
Yes.
And it is hard work. And it is a sacrifice, not only for the person running, but for the family.
Yeah, you can only eat so many pancakes and spaghetti dinners, I tell you. But those are all great events, too. They're very important to our community.
They're very important. And, you hear a lot, there's nothing to do here. Well, I'm here to tell you, there is plenty to do in Logan County. plenty to do. And I also think it's our duty and our responsibility to go out in the communities and introduce ourselves to all the communities. You know, even the smallest of the small, they have a voice too, and it needs to be heard. And so, you know, if we can go out and inform them about how they're voting or why they're voting, I'm happy to do it. You know,
I think it's nice that your constituents get to know who you are in all of the offices. Know you if you walk down the street and say hi, not just a perfunctory hi. You know, there's a difference there. And I think it's important that you know your constituents and the constituents know who our officers are, because after all, they're running the business of the county.
Yeah, you know, and I grew up in Lincoln, and I can remember when I turned 18 and I was able to go vote for the first time. And back then we had straight tickets. Mm-hmm. You know, and I still hear my mom say, "Now you go in there and hit that straight ticket." And I thought, well, no, I want to punch every hole that I can. But you know, and that's something else that has changed. But I remember feeling so proud that my voice was able to be heard at a young age, and I have voted every year since. So it is very important. And the thing people need to remember on the local level, in these local races, your vote does count. Every vote counts.
Kelley Elias, candidate for circuit clerk in the county of Logan. We appreciate your being with us today. We appreciate our circuit clerk, Mrs. Kelley, coming on with us today. She's riding shotgun. Do you have a final comment that you would like to make, my dear?
Yes. Well, thank you, first of all, for having me here, Anne Mary. We appreciate that. And I just ask for everybody's support, and I would like to thank everybody that's helped me, and go out and vote. And I thank you for your vote. March 17th, St. Patty's Day.
St. Patrick's Day. Thank you, Kelley Elias, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for Viewpoint. And don't forget, be the reason somebody smiled today.